And I want to say a massive welcome to everybody. My name's Oliver, and I'll be your host for today from UK University Search. This is the first of our two winter webinar series, where today is all about personal statements and the application process. We're lucky enough to be joined by four institutions, where we'll be joined by City, University of London, University of Essex, the University of Wolverhampton, and the University of Hull as well. Today we'll be learning all things about the personal statements process, the difference maybe about what's happening now and what might differ in the future, as well as the application process as well. A little bit more about how this session is going to run. Firstly, it is being recorded for those who maybe have parents or friends who aren't actually able to attend. These sessions will be sent out to everybody who has registered, and they will also be available on our Student Stream website. So that is studentstream.co.uk. As the session's going to run, we're going to get a quick introductions from each of our universities, telling us a little bit about themselves, where they're located, maybe subject areas that they specialise in, and then we'll jump straight in. We'll have different topics that we'll be talking about and finishing off with a little Q&A. So guys, if you do have any questions, you can see at the bottom of the screen that we do have that Q&A function. I will ask you all to hold off a little bit about asking these questions, because as we are going through, all of our universities should be able to answer everything beforehand. With the Q&A function, if you send a message in, if maybe you've got a specific one about a certain university, if you can just make sure to put, let's say, the University of Wolverhampton before, just so we know each of our panelists know which one to answer. So that's enough of me speaking. What I'm going to do now is pass over to our first panelist of the day, which is Ross from City University London. So over to you, Ross.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. I'm just going to get my slides up for you. So I'm going to first of all talk about a little bit about City St George's, and then after that, my specific question that I've been asked to talk to you about is about personal statements. What is the purpose of them, and what do universities look for? So very classic questions. So I'm just going to share my screen now. So you should see on your screen personal statement and application webinar. So my name is Ross Pickering, and I work for City St George. I have worked for two other universities as well, so I'm quite well versed on university applications, personal statements, financing your studies, and general questions. So as Oliver mentioned in the introduction, whether it's myself or any of the other panelists here, feel free to put questions in the chat, and I'm very happy to answer those along with my colleagues at the end. So a little bit about City St George. First of all, let me just address the name, because for some of you, particularly in year 13, you might be wondering why I'm introducing this, and my name on the screen is City St George's, because some of you might be aware of City, a university called City University of London, which is where I'm currently sat in, and St George's University of London. So this summer, my institution has merged with St George's, but that is happening in stages. So for those who are not aware, there is City University of London, which is based in Clerkenwell, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, and there is St George's University of London, which is a medical and health school based in Tooting, but also in London, but that's in the suburbs in southwest London. And we are now going to be merging. So for the year 12s listening to this webinar, when you come to apply on UCAS, if you want us as a choice, it will be one institution. But for those of you in year 13, it is for the time being two separate institutions. So for City, it's C60, and for St George, it's their code. But for next year, it will be one UCAS code, just so you're aware. So in terms of a bit about us then, so City University is a university focused on business practice and the professions, and is really focused on giving you the skills and knowledge so that if you're, for example, from a background where your families aren't in a certain field, you've got the opportunity to progress in a certain career. So for things like law, health, medicine, etc. But moving forward, the City site will be called the Clerkenwell campus. So that's where I'm currently based. I'm actually sitting in a seminar room at the moment doing this webinar. And we're based in the Farringdon or Islington area of London. In terms of where that's geographically located, depending on whereabouts you're from, obviously this is a national webinar. For those who don't know London, if you're coming from the north of England, most trains terminate at Euston and King's Cross and St Pancras. We are literally a 15-minute walk from all of those stations. Those stations are very near each other. If you're coming from the west or Wales, you're going to Paddington, you can now use the newly opened Elizabeth line, one of the most popular lines in the country, to get to us, because that has got a stop at Farringdon. But we are also accessible on the traditional London Underground line, so things like the Northern, Circle, Hammersmith and City and Metropolitan lines. And we're also on the Thameslink route if you live sort of Brighton, Cambridge, out that way as well. So we're very accessible from literally all sides. That also means from our student body, a lot of our students are commuter students. So about 60% of people on the Clerkenwell site commute as opposed to live in halls of residence, which is particularly high, even for a London university, which is higher than maybe some of the other universities we'll speak shortly, but that's particularly high even for a London university as well. So flipping onto the other side then, Tooting. So that's currently St George's University. And what is probably the most unique thing about that is, one, its specialism. So it only teaches medicine and healthcare. There are no other subject types taught at Tooting, and that is not going to change because of the merger. But it is the only university in the country which is actually inside a hospital. So if you've ever been to an A&E, and St George, actually that's based in that hospital. The other fun fact is, if anyone watches the programme 24 Hours in A&E, I can't lie, I'm not somebody that watches that because I don't like the sight of blood personally, but that's just a personal thing. But 24 Hours in A&E is filmed at St George's Hospital. So there's a fun fact about that. That's also accessible on the Northern line, so you can get to that on the Northern Morden branch, and you can also get Thameslink to Tooting as well. So both of them are very accessible, especially if you're thinking about moving away from home, and we do have accommodation nearby. In terms of departments, so there are currently 6 departments at City. There's only one department at St George's, and that's the health, which includes the medical school, because it's one of 5 medical schools in London. But on the City side, we have 6 academic departments with 6 specialisms, but they're all aligned with City's ethos, which is preparing students for this business practice and the profession. So if you're trying to access a profession, particularly if you've not got parents, as I mentioned, in that profession, City would be a very good university for you. So our specialisms are Bayes Business School, which covers business and finance. We've got the School of Communication and Creativity, so very different to business. That's things like music, journalism, English and media. We've also got the School of Health, and it will now be called the School of Health and Medical Sciences. So St George's will be placed into the existing health school. So that covers things like nursing, radiography, midwifery, speech and language therapy, medicine from the St George's side, and also psychology. We then have the City School of Law, which is one of the oldest schools of laws in the country, and it's quite large as well. We have about 600 undergraduate students each year, but that only has one undergraduate course, which is the LLB in law. And we also have the School of Policy and Global Affairs, which is like our humanities department, really. And then finally, we have our Science and Technology department, which covers maths, computer science and technology. Now, that is going to be everything from me for now, but I will hand back to Oliver, who will introduce the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Ross. And yes, I'll remember now, it is obviously City St George's, so thank you for that one. So moving over now to our next panelist of the day, where we'll be joined by Amy, and Amy is joining us from the University of Essex. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen and you can hear me properly. So I'm Amy, I'm from the University of Essex. I just graduated with a BA in journalism with human rights law, and I also did a year abroad in Hong Kong, along with doing some societies, so I know quite a bit about the university. So this is Essex, we are Essex. Just change slide, there we go. So these are just some facts about the university. We are top 25 in the UK, with 86% of our undergraduates in employment or further study. So it's very good if you're wanting to get a job after university. We have a very large student body from 140 different countries. I think it's around 44% come from those 140 different countries. So if you're looking for an international university, Essex is a good place for you. I think we're ranked 15th in the world for our international outlook, which is really, really good. It's very diverse. And then 5 of our subjects are ranked top 10 for research. So if you're looking for somewhere that has very strong research skills, you could look into our law, economy, sociology, government, and computer science and electronic engineering courses. And if you can see in the corner, we are located just outside London. It's about an hour on the train. We have 3 different campuses. Colchester, Southend and Lawton, which I'm just about to speak about. So these are our 3 campuses. Colchester is our standard campus, campus university. Southend is a city university, it's close to London, and then Lawton is our East 15 acting school. So alumni from there have gone on to work for the BBC, Netflix, the West End, many different places. So if you're really interested in acting and performing arts, I heavily suggest you have a look in there. So some of the cool facilities at our university, I'd first go to our library, which is our Albert Sloman Library. It's open 24/7, which is really, really useful if you're working on coursework, because obviously you want to try your best to plan ahead, but sometimes you do end up doing an all-nighter, which I do not recommend. But there is always someone in the library for you to sit with and study with, and just get you through those days. We have our Essex Business School, which is the first carbon neutral business school in the whole of the UK. It's also really nice to just sit and study in with your friends, as it's kind of a bit like a rainforest when you go inside. You've got the Wivenhoe House and Edge Hotel School, which is a 4-star hotel. And when you study at Essex, if you're studying there, you get to work there at the same time. So you get that good balance of learning and practical hands-on experience. Then you have the STEM Centre for your computer science and life science students. So you have the robotics lab with the 3 million investment there. So you can imagine the facilities and robotics that you have access to, and all of the different labs, biological and computer, for the students. So we're very much wanting hands-on experience at Essex. So you have the law clinic for law and human rights students, where you can volunteer. People will come with their real problems, and along with other students and lecturers, you'll be able to help people and use the law to solve real life problems and make a difference whilst you're studying at university. Similar with the sports therapy clinic for people that study physiotherapy and sport therapy. They'll be helping our performance athletes and students on campus work through injuries and just training their bodies. We've got the Lakeside Theatre attached to our library, where you can put on performances with your friends and see different acts from around the UK and abroad, which is interesting. Like I said, we have very strong research links, so you can see the kind of labs we have on offer, the robotics, the kind of performance athletes. We have mock medical wards and home simulations. So for those doing physiotherapy and health and social care, they can have that practice of being in almost a real ward outside of their placement time, where they may be in a real ward. We have the option to do a study abroad or a placement year. So you can transform your degree into a sandwich degree. So your first 2 years you'd be at Essex, and then your third year you'd be either studying abroad like I did, or you would be working in a company. The university is really good, and they support you the whole way through, from the application process to coming back to university in your 4th year. And the exciting thing about Essex, have 150 different locations, and you can go to any of them. It doesn't have a restriction on what you're studying. If you're able to go there, you can go. Our SU, Students' Union, is top 10 in the UK, and you can see from the various pictures the different things we get up to. So we do different cultural events, different societies. You see the music society there. One of the students is a very good DJ. The different spaces on campus, then V Team in the corner, which has been given the King's Service Award, I believe, which is the only SU in the UK to receive that is Essex, because of our voluntary service. So sport at Essex, we have 46 sports clubs, a £12 million Essex Sports Arena, and loads of different facilities. So if there isn't a sport that we have available, you're more than welcome to start the society with your friends to get involved. So yeah, that is everything from me so far.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Amy. And I look forward to coming back to you a little bit later on. So to move on, we're going to be joined by the University of Wolverhampton, where we're joined both by Lee and Surjeet. So over to you both. Oh, I just think you're on mute at the
Oh, yeah.
moment. There we go.
Sorry, I'm just about to share my screen. Just bear with me, please. Is it coming through yet?
Not yet. Here we go.
Does that come through okay? Yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name's Serge, and I'm here from the University of Wolverhampton. I'm here joined today with by my colleague Lee Wallis, and we both work at the uni as UK recruitment assistants. I'm just going to talk a little bit.
Lee, are you able to speak? Is that okay? I think we've just lost Serge a little bit, and we'll just wait for her connection to come
Ah,
back, if that's okay.
that's
And I'll
absolutely fine. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I think she might have joined us back again. Sorry, Lee.
Oh,
Serge, can you
sorry,
hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you
Yes,
hear
no,
me?
sorry. We just lost you briefly, but it seems
Oh,
like you're back and all good.
oh, sorry. I'll start again. I'll
Yes.
just run from the beginning, if that's okay. I don't know
No
what
worries.
bit you missed or... Yes, my name's Serge, and I'm joined by my colleague Lee today. And we're recruitment assistants at the University of Wolverhampton. I want to share with you how we invest in our students. We have been educating students for nearly 200 years at the University of Wolverhampton, and we've contributed to an economic regional growth and nationally by creating opportunities and connections for our students. We are the University of Opportunity, and our mission is to create opportunities and transform futures. We help our students to increase and fulfill their potential and move into fulfilling careers ready for the world of employment. We are one of the top risers of the Guardian Higher Education League table this year, and we've been ranked in the top 10 for social inclusion by the Sunday Times University Guide 2024. We've been ranked #1 in the UK for teaching first generation students, those who are the first in the family to go to uni by the Daily Mail University Guide 2024. 2/3 of our students are the first in their family to go to university, and we appreciate it can be a difficult transition, and we're here to guide you and your family through with advice and guidance for areas such as how to apply and student finance, and areas where parents have not had to navigate before. And we are glad you are here today to explore and support. We give you support as much as we can.
Thank you, Serge. We have invested millions into supporting our students through financial support, welfare and academic support, as well as significant investments into our facilities to provide the best possible environment for our students, ensuring they access to industry standard equipment and facilities and support to make the most of their university journey. Most recent projects include Springfield, no relation to the Simpsons. I'm really sorry, Simpsons fans, but our Springfield is the home of the university's School of Architecture and Built Environment, as well as the National Brownfield Institute. Springfield used to be a brewery, which has been transformed into Europe's largest specialist construction and built environment campus. It is gorgeous. You should really come see it for yourself. It brings together businesses and the education sector to maximize economic impact. And we have also invested 1.5 million into our library and student support hub developed over the summer. It's beautiful, as you can see there. As well as last year, our student union facilities refurbishment. And this year we are investing into our courtyard cafe. I hope the paninis are just as good as they are next year. It's exciting times at Wolverhampton. We've also invested £5 million into building facilities for the School of Creative Industries in the Screen School, which is great for the West Midlands area. £3 million investment in developing the pharmacy facilities, particularly the dispensary and diagnostic areas. Again, exciting times. £22 million build for the Rosalind Franklin building dedicated to our sciences programs, plus additional upgrades to equipment to make sure our scientists are working at that state-of-the-art level and have the access as well. We've also invested extensively into our campuses and facilities, especially over the past 3 years, into a number of multi-million-pound projects. And that includes a £5 million investment in March's Centre of Excellence in Allied Health and Social Care in 2021. And we have an outstanding engineering facilities, and also including a £6 million funding boost for the Office for Students for improvements to our sports and healthcare facilities that was completed this year as well. We wanted to say thank you for listening to us, and we look forward to your questions during the webinar as well. And that is Wolverhampton in a nutshell.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, both Serge and Lee. And thank you for that introduction about the University of Wolverhampton. Now, last but not least, we'll be joined by the University of Hull, where I'll be passing over to Tracy. So over to you, Tracy.
Thank you. Just sharing my presentation. Hopefully that's working for you. Can everyone see that okay, I hope?
All good, Tracy.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tracy and I work as a student recruitment officer at the University of Hull. University of Hull is one of England's oldest universities. We've been challenging the world to think differently for almost 100 years. At the University of Hull, you're part of something bigger, a community of free thinkers making a difference in all walks of life. Hull was recently rated gold in the Teaching Excellence Framework in 2023, and that's the highest possible ranking for teaching quality and student success. Our degrees go beyond knowledge. They develop you as a whole person so that you're ready for your future when you graduate. 95% of our students are in work or further study within 15 months of graduation. So for those that you don't know, where are we? We're up there in the East Riding of Yorkshire, easily accessible from the M62, which goes straight into Hull. And also we have direct train links now from London with Hull trains. The campus itself is about 2 miles north of the centre of Hull, again with excellent transport links from the city centre. Hull was the City of Culture in 2017, which encouraged quite a lot of regeneration within the city centre. It's also home to something called the Deep, which is Europe's only sub-aquarium. It's perfectly situated on the Humber estuary, which makes us really popular for subjects such as marine biology, as we've also got access to that Jurassic Yorkshire coastline as well. Over the years, through investment, we've evolved our campus to include everything you could possibly need to live, study and socialise. We're a true campus university. From our incredible 7-storey library, which houses over 1 million books and more than 400 open access PCs, to our dazzling concert hall, modern accommodation and up-to-the-minute health facilities. With over 2,300 on-campus rooms, we're able to offer first-year students a guaranteed place in university-owned, managed or directed accommodation. We offer teaching in many subjects, including business, nursing, midwifery, psychology, sport, English, law and sciences and many others. We're also home to the Hull York Medical School, which is a joint venture between the University of Hull and the University of York. So you are able to study medicine with us here at Hull as well. I've attached this QR code, so if anyone wants any more information about the University of Hull, that will take you directly to our website. As a university, we're here to guide you towards achieving your academic, career and personal aspirations. We support you from the moment you join us through to even after you've graduated. Your success isn't just a goal, it's a commitment that we uphold at every step of your journey. Ethics, sustainability and social responsibility need to be at the forefront of every decision. So our academics are tackling some of humanity's greatest threats head on. Everything you learn prepares you for taking on the complex challenges of tomorrow. We're working on helping communities better prepare for rising flood and climate risks, as well as righting social injustices and working hard to tackle slavery in all its forms. In 2023, we were judged the most affordable city in the UK, which will make your student loan stretch that a little bit further. Thank you. I'll pass you back to Oliver now.
Thank you very much for that, Tracy, and thank you very much to all of our panelists. It was a great introduction of who we're actually going to be dealing with today, but now it's actually time to talk a little bit more about what this webinar is based on, and that is everything to do with personal statements and the application process. What we are going to do now is I'm going to pass over and we're going to talk about the different aspects. So things from the difference from the personal statement now, how the application process works, and more things of what universities are actually looking for. Before we do get started, I just wanted to reiterate to everybody that we do have that Q&A function at the bottom. So any questions that you may have going through, things that don't make sense, or even anything related to this webinar, please do fire away. We've got lots of experts on hand here to answer all of your questions. Final thing is as well, it is for those who may have joined a little bit later, this session is also being recorded and will be available on studentstream.co.uk. For those who did register, it will be emailed to you. But if you did want to let parents or teachers or friends know at a later date, that's where to find it. Enough of me talking now. I'm going to be passing over to Ross at City St George's, University of London, who's going to be telling us a little bit more about the purpose of the personal statement and how to appeal to what universities are looking for. So over to you, Ross.
Thank you very much, Oliver. I'm just going to reload up my slides again. So obviously in the second part of this session, we're looking at the personal statement in more depth. Obviously, for those of you in year 13, you might be summarising or completing your personal statements if you haven't done so already. I don't know about other practitioners on the call, but I know I've been in lots of schools and colleges in the last few weeks helping students finalise their personal statements. So I was delighted when I heard that this would be my topic because this is very pertinent to the work that I've been doing in the past couple of weeks. But for those of you in year 12, obviously you've still got about 6 months to a year, but later on in this session, you're going to hear about some of the timeline of when you need to do things by. So don't think you need to start this like tomorrow if you're in year 12. This does apply to next calendar year. But it's good that you're aware of what the purpose is and why universities ask for it, which I'm about to introduce for everybody now. So on that note, then, what is a personal statement? So a personal statement basically is a supporting document to help you with your UCAS application. Really, it's your only opportunity for you to actually sell yourself to the universities and colleges to showcase why are you applying to university in the first place. Why is it you want to go on to higher education for 3, 4, 5 more years in the case of things like medicine, and actually want to do that course as opposed to going into the world of work, doing an apprenticeship and things like that. So for those of you, and I know often with young people, they might be toiling between university and thinking about other options, you can think of the personal statement in many ways as somewhat similar to a covering letter, which is what you have to write for job applications and apprenticeships. It basically is that supporting document outlining why are you applying and why you think you're suitable. So there's two sort of questions you kind of want to answer yourself, really, in the personal statement. Now, I don't want to get too hard on the word question because I know one of the other speakers later on is going to go through with you the 3-question approach, which is in the new personal statement structure, because personal statements are changing, but not that much between now and next year. So in terms of the second part of what I've been asked to answer in this webinar is the classic, probably the most frequently asked question we all get asked, I'm sure my other 3 speakers can agree with me on this, is what do university institutions look for in a personal statement? And students ask me this all the time. I got asked this literally yesterday in a school. Now, there is no golden answer to this question, really, and some of my answers here are going to be obvious, but as somebody who reads personal statements all the time, it is quite staggering how often even the most academic learners might overlook the obvious in their answers to personal statements. So first, and I'd say most significantly as a theme in your personal statement, you want to showcase that you have a genuine natural interest and enthusiasm for the course. And I can't stress this enough. And it is, I would say, and I'm not an admissions tutor. Most of the people on this call work in recruitment, widening participation or schools liaison teams, but we might read personal statements. I certainly, I don't know about others, I can spot a student who's, let's say, mum or dad want them to be a doctor or a lawyer, but they're not so interested in the profession, versus a student who genuinely has an interest in that subject. I can detect that in the first line. So if I can detect that, an admissions tutor who reads this year in, year out is definitely going to detect that. So the key theme you want to showcase in your writing style and approach is that you have a genuine interest and enthusiasm for the subject. You can do this by very clearly showing an understanding of the course you're actually applying for. Now, what I mean by that is at school, obviously you follow the national curriculum, regardless of the school or college you're in, regardless of the part of the country. Even if you're in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and not England, you have a curriculum in those parts of the UK as well. So you will have the same themes and topics, whatever school or college you're in. Whereas at university, universities are autonomous in terms of the modules and topics that they can offer, even though they might have, let's say, like my degree, I did a geography degree personally. A geography degree at one university might be literally completely different to another university. The only thing that unites them is the fact they've got geography in their title, because the specialisms of those academics at those institutions might differ, and that's reflected in terms of the module and topic content. So as you've got 5 choices, which the other speakers might talk to you about, particularly for year 12 who are not aware of this, make sure that your personal statement is applicable to all 5. So it's much better to use themes rather than being too specific. So I'll give you an example here from my own discipline, geography. If you're talking about something like climate change, which is in probably a lot of geography courses around the UK, use themes rather than say, well, I know at X university, they have an aspect of climate change in X. That gives away that we think you might be applying to that institution, because universities cannot see in your main application where else you have applied to. But if the more information you give away, then you might make it obvious. So don't do that. A couple of other things as well. Obviously, my other speakers are going to go through the personal statement structure with you in a minute. So these part 3 and 4 are going to make more sense when they go through it with you. But to understand the motivations and aspiration of the student is really helpful, because in your UCAS application, it's just facts about you. So what school you went to, what are your grades, where you live, that's all facts about a student. There's no personal sort of understanding about the personality, the interest, the motivation there. So the personal statement is literally the only space where you've got that ability to showcase that. So if you are applying to study law because you want to become a solicitor, or you want to go and work in a certain practice, you want to specialise in commercial law in the future, the more you can tell us about your motivation for doing that, the better, because it gives us an understanding. And also that tells us how we might be able to help you when you first start. So if you want to do, I don't know, more specialism in commercial law, that might give us an understanding of what your research topic might be about in your final year course project, as an example. So the more you can tell us, the better. But with the premise in mind of what I said on the first slide, which is why are you applying and why you think you're suitable. Always have that in mind. And that lends me on to point 4, which is particularly pertinent for more vocational courses. So things like health and even medical courses, because there's placements involved, the skills and experiences you can bring to the course. And that generally comes in the extracurricular activities. But one key thing, and I've really noticed this in the last few weeks when I've been in schools and colleges, it's not an opportunity for you to list every activity you've ever done. What's better, and the other speakers will go into this in more depth, is telling us about one experience and how that actually relates to the course. It's all good if you're captain of the football team, but if that doesn't relate to the course or you can't relate it back, that's been a waste of writing. What's better is to showcase what that skill was, how you can then utilize it on your course and what you've learned from it, and then how it's going to prepare you for the course you're about to embark on. But there's lots of examples of how you can do that, through things like teamwork. Volunteering is always a very good example. Also things like work experience as well. So overall, my sort of top tips really, before the other speakers come in and explain this more, is it is a formal document, even with the new structure. So please do use paragraphs. It's not, I've seen a couple of personal statements in recent weeks where students have used bullet points. That is not how you're meant to do it. Please do have a clear beginning, middle and end. It's quite sad sometimes when I read personal statements. They start off really, really well, but they sort of trail halfway in the middle. Don't be that student that sort of runs out of steam halfway through. If you use what UCAS recommend, which is called the PEEL method, now you might know the PEE method from school. If you were in English language, they teach you point, evidence, explain. It basically is exactly the same thing, but you just link back at the end all of the examples you've used, how that then relates to the course or career that you're going on to. And overall, keep it short and sweet. It is a concise document. It's not a university essay. It's meant to showcase what I said at the beginning, why you are applying and why you think you're suitable. So actually the best personal statements are the ones that are concise, short and sweet, but explain their motivations for applying to us as institutions. And that is everything from me for this section. So I'm now going to hand back to Oliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Ross. So moving forward now, we'll be joining Amy again from the University of Essex. And Amy's going to be talking a little bit more about the style and structure of the personal statement and how this has changed under the new format for this year. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you. For those of you in year 13 who are wanting to apply for university in the next year with the application in January, you will be wanting to do the 2025 entry personal statement. So that is the 4,000 character, 47 line structure. You want to split that into paragraphs, but I'll go into that a bit more later. And you want to have around roughly 70% why you want to do the course and 30% about you. For those of you who are maybe wanting to defer your university place or are in year 12 and below, you'll be wanting to use the 2026 entry. So this is the new version where instead of just one big statement, it's split into 3 different questions that I'll go into later. So that's 3 questions. The minimum per section is 350 characters, but it doesn't matter how many lines you're on. But it's still a 4,000 character maximum overall. So let's have a look at the 2025 first. So you want to ideally split your personal statement into 5 different sections, so it's easier for planning. So you want to go into the motivation for why you're wanting to study the course, as Ross was talking about earlier, the academic evidence, why you're passionate and what your relevant work experience is, your transferable skills, and then putting together a strong conclusion. So the most important thing in the first part is please write what you're applying for. You don't put what university you're applying for, but if you can write the kind of course you're applying for, because otherwise we'll get to the end of the personal statement and not be sure what you're applying for, and it kind of puts the university off a little bit. So if you want to put what you're applying for, and maybe think about why you're wanting to apply there. Do you love the subject? Are you wanting to do it for a career? Then you can speak about your academic evidence. So in your application, you will have already put in what your GCSEs are, what your A-level results are hoping to be. But here is where you say what you're studying at the moment and how that can help in your university. So maybe you're wanting to go into psychology and you study psychology at the moment, or maybe you don't study psychology, but you study something similar and you're thinking you've read some books that will be really helpful when you go to university. Or it could be that you read a lot of books and all of that research will be really helpful in university when you're doing loads of reading and loads of research. So it doesn't necessarily have to be if you don't study it at the moment, you'll be able to use it in the future. Then it goes on to the kind of extracurricular things that you've done outside of school. So your work experience or your volunteering, maybe it's something that you did outside of school that's really inspired you to continue doing that at university. And this is where you're wanting to acknowledge your transferable skills. This is the most important part of the personal statement, I think, aside from saying what you want to study, because everything can be very useful. So I'll go on to that later in the section, but even if it's something outside, so maybe you're on the swimming team, you can say that you have really strong teamwork, you've got very strong motivation, because if you're waking up at 5 in the morning to go swimming before you've even gone to school, it's showing that you're very good with your timekeeping, and that will be very useful when you go to study at university because it's very independent. And then putting together a strong conclusion. So at the end, you're going back to why you want to study the course again. So then we'll quickly go to the 2026 version. So it's very similar with the content, but you're just having to slot it into the questions. So the first one being, why do you want to study the course? And the second one being, how have your qualifications and studies helped you for this course? And then the third one being, what outside of your education will help you with university? So similar content, just putting it into the different questions. So the first one, again, you'd be speaking about why you want to study this course, and please say in there what course you're wanting to study. So it's showing that you know a bit about the subject already, and maybe that you've got a future plan, and this degree will help you get to that future plan. The second one, again, it's speaking about what you've studied in school currently and how that will help you study at university and any educational achievements. And the third one, it's all of your outside stuff, the transferable skills and how that will help you at university. And if you see the QR code here, you're welcome to take a screenshot or come back to the recording, and it will take you to the personal statement information on our website, so you can find out some more about either the 2025 or the 2026. So good luck with writing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy, for that explanation on the difference of this year and next year also. So moving on now to the University of Wolverhampton, where I think I'm actually joined by Surj. And Surj is going to be talking a little bit more on when to start your personal statement and the common mistakes to avoid. So over to you, Surj.
Thank you, Oliver. Just going to start sharing my screen. Bear with me. Oh, has that come through okay?
Yeah, just about. It's just you can
The
see
screen.
both screens, but I think that should be okay. It's visible enough.
Oh, bear with me now, because I might just keep it. Bear with me. Sorry about this. Bit of technical issues here.
No worries, take your time. It always happens.
No, it's not going through. I tell you what I'm going to do. I would just talk to you if that's okay with you guys.
No problem at all, Surj.
Come out of this. It's all right. I've lost my other screen now. Bear with me. Okay, sorry about that. I do apologise. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about a personal statement and the most common mistakes to avoid. So an undergraduate personal statement is your chance to get notice for the unique talents and experiences that you have. It's an important part of the application process, and it's your opportunity to talk about yourself and your passions outside of your grades. My advice is to start as early as possible. You'll have heard the saying, preparation is key, and that's no different when you're tackling your personal statement. There are two things to think about when you're planning, the practical and the factual information. So think about what you actually do, what you've done, and the practical side of this personal statement and what you need to get across. And more so the emotional and the human parts of you that make you different to everyone else. Before you start writing, I think take some time to think about the key things that you'd want the admissions tutors to know about you, and get them down on paper. Start making bullet points, things that make you unique to you. I know I do like a a map, a little map chart, start writing key points, and then elaborating on each one of those points. Don't worry about making it too perfect. Make your notes just as they go along, and then they will automatically form into some form of sentence, will then carry on to being a paragraph. And personal statements, this is more about making sure that you know why you should be off. They should know why you should be offered the place. So it's your opportunity to really shine in that personal statement. Another thing you can do is look at course descriptions. They will help you with writing your statement and what to include. So have a look at the modules, have a look what's transferable in terms of what's going to be on that course and how that can be transferred to you. Sorry. So some of the things I would definitely say don't do. Looking back on some of the personal statements, sometimes they come across too modest. You can go from being too modest to being too shy. You don't want to come over across too eager, where you're robotic and you've just tried to pinpoint and you're not getting your personal qualities across. So you're coming across too modest, and people can read that. The academics can read that, and so can the admissions department as well. And then don't be too shy either. Sell yourself. You have got potential. I think everyone does have the potential to put across their qualities. So don't be too shy when you're trying to make out your personal statement. Don't exaggerate. Definitely don't exaggerate. It will get caught. You will get caught out, whether that's in your personal statement, people will read that, or when it comes to an interview. So if you are going to be interviewed, that they may ask the question, and if you can't answer that and exaggerate or elaborate on that, they will still be able to know that you've not actually put exactly what you want to, or you have exaggerated what you're trying to say. But do make it relevant and connect what you're saying with the course and your experiences. So definitely, yeah, we spoke earlier, one of my colleagues spoke earlier. Yeah, if it's a hobby or a sport that you do, make sure it is relevant to what you're actually trying to apply for in that subject or that course. Don't use quotes. We see this many a times in the past where they're using quotes or cliches. Definitely use your own words. Again, it's a waste of words, because you are limited with the amount of words that you can use. So don't use other people's quotes, because we want to hear from you and not what other people are saying. Don't leave it to the last minute. It's really important that you do start early, even if it's start making those little notes, start researching from the university's websites, start looking on the course pages, start thinking about how you can elaborate more on what your qualities are and how you can have those transferable skills that will go on to your personal statement. If you do leave it too late, it will be rushed, therefore it won't, it won't read right, and you probably will miss out a lot of the information that you did want to put in there, and just because you've just run out of time, you've not been able to put everything in there. Do expect to have a lot of drafts, because it's not your first time that you're going to write it that it's going to be correct. So you will need time to make more and more drafts. So you've got enough time to send the perfect statement out to the academics or to the university. Another thing is make sure you check your spelling. Spelling mistakes are really, really common because they've not been read correctly by either yourself, or they've not been given to either a family member, a teacher, a friend, somebody else to read your personal statement. Sometimes when you're writing, you won't see your own mistakes, whereas if you give it on to somebody else, they'll be able to proofread it for you and make any amendments for you. Sorry, and don't copy and paste stuff, especially from AI, ChatGPT or anything like that. It will be found out. We want to see your personality, your qualities in this personal statement. So it's really important that you try not to use any artificial intelligence software. Another thing that people might not do, don't post it on the internet or social media, purely because people can copy see what you're writing, copy yours, use your words, and it will get caught out because it does go through a portal as well. So make sure you only leave it to friends and family and people that you trust to read your personal statement. And finally, I definitely say, just don't worry about it. Any university, even ourselves here at the university, we offer advice and guidance to students, and they will help you along with the personal statement and give you support that you may need. And that's it from me. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you very much for that, Serge. I'm moving on finally now. Just before we start with our question and answers, we've got one more topic where I'll be joined by Tracy again from the University of Hull. And she'll be talking a little bit more about the structure of the application process and the weighting of the personal statement compared to the teacher references and predicted grades. So over to you, Tracy.
Thank you. I'll just get my presentation back up. Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, as Oliver just mentioned, my part of this is going to be focusing on the application process itself, and where personal statements sit in the importance of that application process. So moving on to first things first is that what you need to do is register with UCAS. So most applications or all applications will be submitted through this portal, which is called UCAS Hub. So you'll be asked to register and create a username and password. You may be given a buzzword by your college, so it will ask for it at this point. You can continue with your application if you haven't received that buzzword yet and add it later on, but you must remember to go back and add that buzzword. So that comes from your college, and it's basically designed to be able to link you to the college or school that you're attending. So as part of that application process, your teacher or your tutors will be completing a reference on your behalf. So they need to be able to have a look at your application in order to submit the reference that they have for you. So this is roughly what the dashboard looks like when you log on to UCAS Hub. For the fee, it does actually have a charge to apply through UCAS, and that's £28.50, and you can apply for 5 courses, up to 5 courses for that £28.50. For the 2025 cycle, if you have been in receipt of free school meals within the past 6 years, which is whilst you've been in secondary education, this fee could be waived. So make sure you check out the UCAS website for the information about that. And finally, on this point, I just thought I would note that you, as providers, we cannot see the other choices you make when you're applying. So those 5 choices could be all different universities, but the universities can only see applications that are made to their own institution. And it equally doesn't matter in what order that you put them in on the application form. So what does the application form itself look like? So it's divided into sections, as you could see from the UCAS Hub. So once you've registered with the UCAS Hub, you will be asked to provide some personal information. So this is designed to help the university build a picture of you and then your suitability for the course that you've applied for. So there's a section in personal details for additional information, that's asking for gender, nationality, and it also asks for any supporting information around any learning difficulties that you have or any medical conditions. Some of the information in that section may be really helpful to the university, as it may allow them to let you know about any support that they can offer you once you begin your studies. It may also help them consider your achievements around some context around there. They'll also ask you about your education, so that would be where you include your GCSE results, and they'll want to know the year that you achieved those results as well. And then there'll be space for you to enter what you're currently studying. So make sure you list in as much detail as you can the qualifications that you're doing as your level 3 qualifications. You'll obviously only be able to put predicted grades against those achievements as well. They'll also want to know any employment that you've had. So this could include any part-time roles that you do in your spare time, or any volunteering that you do. This again is to give the university some insight into you, and for some courses, experience in certain areas may help your application. The personal statement, as we've talked about this evening, is a key part of your application. It's worth putting some time into this, as it's your chance to shine and to give the university some idea of who you are and why the course you are choosing is important to you. And then finally, there's a reference section, as I alluded to on the previous slide. This is written by your school or your college, and your tutor or your guidance tutor usually completes that. And that is a reference about you, about your conduct within the school or the college, and what you have behaved like, what you've performed like within that time. You'll also need to enter your course choices onto the UCAS hub. So each university has an institution code, and then there are course codes for that institution. As you can imagine, there are thousands and thousands of courses within the UK that you're able to apply for through UCAS. And the UCAS database does contain all of those courses and those providers. So just double check that you're entering the right institution number and the right course code for those courses that you'd like to apply for. And then once you're happy with your application and have checked it for errors, you then sign a declaration and your application is processed by UCAS. It is then sent to the relevant universities as indicated by the choices you've made. So actually, how is a personal statement used in that application process, in that admissions process? Ultimately, submitting a personal statement is a compulsory and inevitable part of the UCAS application process. It's actually great experience for you to write something genuine which personalises this otherwise formal process. You can use it as an opportunity to practice writing about yourself, because once you graduate and apply for jobs or for further study, having had practice of writing about yourself will be an advantage to you. So how are personal statements used? Each university and course may have varying ways in which they view personal statements. Most admissions tutors will use your personal statement to help them make a decision on your application. For example, for courses that require an applicant to be interviewed, such as adult nursing or primary teaching, an admissions tutor will often use the personal statement alongside a teacher reference and predicted grades to decide which candidates to invite for interview. Sometimes a personal statement could be used to make an offer when an applicant has narrowly missed the predicted grade requirements, but has had some really strong evidence of experiences in that subject area. So, for example, at Hull, we would consider student applications as a whole picture. So we would look at the personal statement alongside predicted grades and teacher references. As always, if the personal statement aspect of your application is something that you are concerned about, you could always explore with the individual institutions that you're thinking of applying to. And that's just the QR code for more information to visit the University of Hull's website if you so desire. Thank you, Oliver.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tracy. And thank you very much to all of our panelists for answering those topic areas for us. So it's time to move on to the final section of the webinar. And this is the part where, after dealing with sort of all of the students' previous webinars, these are the questions that we get asked most, whether that's people from the recruitment team or even ourselves here at UK University Search. We find these to be the most asked questions. A few of them I feel like our panelists have answered already, but I think it's quite important to just go over them again and make sure that we've got them answers down. So to start off with, we'll be joined again by Ross at City St George's University of London. So Ross, my first question for you is, should I do extra reading and the subject of the course to write about in my personal statement? Sorry, let me just read that one to you again. I stuttered a little bit. So should I do extra reading about the subject of the course to write about in my personal statement?
Yeah, so absolutely, my answer would be yes, is the short answer. Extra reading is really good for us to understand your interest in the subject. So going back to what I said and some of the other speakers have now replicated, in terms of really showing your enthusiasm for the course that you're applying to. But with extra reading, I do come with some caveats. So it's not just useful in terms of best practice to tell us what you've read. It's much more about what you've gained from what you've read, and most importantly, how that's going to prepare you for the course. Because in some of the paragraphs that I've read in the last couple of weeks, in some of the schools or colleges I've been, some students have read some very interesting books and other articles. It could be journals, it could be newspapers, it could be watching podcasts, which is a more modern way of engaging with reading and academic content. But it's not just about watching it or reading it, it's about actually what you've learned and how that's going to prepare you, because sometimes that can really shape your understanding, maybe a certain module that's going to come up on a certain course, or prepare you for sort of first year in your transition to university. But it's much more about linking it back. So that method that I mentioned before, point, evidence, explain, link, yes, reading would be the point, and please then explain that with evidence and also explanation, but then linking it back to how that then relates to the course. And that's what makes a good solid paragraph. But I'd say that probably will only feature in the new approach 1 out of 3 questions, and probably in the old approach 1 paragraph out of 5. It won't be the whole section of the personal statement, because obviously we need to understand you holistically and all of your motivations, but reading can form a part of that. So we would encourage it, but remember to make sure that it links back to the course at the end. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Ross. So moving across now to Amy at the University of Essex. So Amy, should I include things that don't relate to my course? So things like extracurricular activities? And if so, what proportion of the personal statement should this take up?
Yeah, so let me just share my screen again. Yeah, you should definitely be including things that you think don't relate to your course, because there's always a way to make it relevant. So I saw, I think, Jagjit in the Q&A, thank you for asking. Even though like guitar isn't directly linked to medicine, there are loads of transferable skills there that I'll get into in a second. So this is just our cheerleading team, which is one of the extracurricular type activities you can do at Essex. So for the 2025 entry, the way that you would put in your extracurricular things that you don't directly relate to your course would be in that 30% about you. So you could be saying the extracurricular activities, maybe that's why you're wanting to do your course at university. It could be showing something with the transferable skills, but it's in that 30%. With the 2026 version, it would be in that last question. So I'll just move on quickly. Sorry, no, I won't. But it would be in the last question that asks specifically about your extracurricular activities. You could put it in there. So it might be that you do some volunteering, it might be that you're playing a sport, it might be that you're political, you do dancing, you're hosting events for people, all of these different things you can put in. So for example, if you raise money for a charity, it's showing determination, you're thinking outside of the box. If you're captain of the football team, it's showing responsibility, leadership, representation. Drama, or say guitar, is the confidence, the commitment, because that's a lot of training that you're having to put into, and also a different kind of intelligence with like the memory of playing and the physical aspect of it, which could be useful in medicine. And then if you're maybe teaching on a gap year, that's showing that is something you want to do in the future, and your degree is helping you get there. So I'll just stop sharing for a second. So yeah, you should definitely be including your extracurricular activities in your statement. You don't want to do too much, but either that 30% or the last question, you can also slot it in other places. And also Theodora, I think you can watch back the recording to make some notes on the slide if you want. But thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Amy. And yeah, just to reiterate, Theodora, I can see your question there. This session has been recorded and will be available either at the end of this week or early next week, but you will be sent an email across with the link, so don't worry about that too much. So moving across now to where we joined again by the University of Wolverhampton, where we'll actually be joined by Lee. Lee, the question I have for you, I know it's not relative to all subject areas, but I know it's always a good one to ask. So, how should I prepare for an interview, and what are mistakes to avoid during an interview?
That is a cracking question, and I'll try and give the most rounded answer that I can. So, for myself and how we plan at Wolverhampton, the first thing is definitely plan ahead. Don't go into an interview cold. And yeah, just like you would a driving test or any other test, you do your research, you do your revision, you do your lessons. So yeah, you practice your interviews with a friend, teacher, advisor, whoever it is, just to get that feel of an interview, of being asked questions, because being put on the spot to come up with an answer can be quite daunting. So definitely practice doesn't make perfect, but it does make a lot better. So definitely plan ahead of your interview, get used to answering questions, and enjoy it. And one big thing that I really endorse is sleep. Sleep really well, because if you're anxious and you don't get that regulated sleep, definitely take a courtesy nap before an interview, just to make sure that you're well rested, the heart rate's down, and in an interview, they're just there to know who you are, what you're about. It's not an interrogation. It's just a person trying to get to know another person. For the interview itself, dress accordingly. That doesn't necessarily mean suited and booted to the max. It just means dress for the part that you want. My background is drama, so yeah, when it comes to costumes and design, you definitely want to, if you feel the part, then more likely you're going to be the part. So yeah, definitely dress according to what exactly you want. Definitely give yourself plenty of time ahead of the interview. That's one, to settle nerves. Two, shows good time management. And also, it just gives you that relief moment as well before going into the interview. So brings that heart rate down, and you can really just focus on what you need to focus on, rather than rushing, turning up, and then you're straight in. There's nothing worse. Be mindful of your body language. So yeah, be very extroverted, because they want to know about you, and if you're keeping that to yourself, it creates more questions and answers for the interviewer. And we all like an open book. So no slouching is a big one. No yawning is also another one. Folding the arms and looking generally closed off, and yeah, make as much eye contact as you can, and just generally relax and enjoy the process. It's okay if you don't know the answers to some questions, just be honest about it. It's, and again, it's not a quiz, it's not a test, it's just a matter of finding out who you are and whether you fit in and whether you belong. Because yeah, we're not looking for the most academic or the most anything, we're just looking for the right person, and that across anything. And a really important one, I think, is to ask your questions as well, to see if it's the right place for you. Because as much as we want to impress, they want to impress you as well, because you've picked them. And yeah, that's how we create our bonds, and it shows that you're enthusiastic about the position. And it shows that you have done your research and want to know more about the position or the course or whatever it is you just want to know, and it shows that good keenness that universities like. And I would say for after the interview, I'd say just take some notes, reflect on how well you did and what you would change for next time, because it is one of those things which is trial and error. You're not going to get it right all the time, but as I said, practice makes better, and so does regular interviews as well. And just sit back, relax, and enjoy. I think the common mistake with interviews is that we try to answer everything, even though we don't know the answers, and we try to blag through it. But as people, we're cleverer than that, and we can see through it. And another thing that I'd say mistake-wise that we sadly do, which is human, is just we build up those nerves, and it can overwhelm ourselves into these situations. But if you just plan ahead, give yourself plenty of time, then yeah, interviews become more of a fun thing, getting to know another person at institute rather than another daunting process. So yeah, I just enjoy every interview that you have and learn from them. And that is me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that advice, Lee, when it comes to interviews. So last but not least, we'll be joined again by Tracy from the University of Hull. And Tracy, would it be better? So the question that I've got for you, and I actually think it's a question that I get asked a lot, especially when we're doing some events, is would it be better to include lots of different experiences and describe them briefly, or focus on a couple and explore them in a little bit more depth?
Thank you. Personally, I would focus on quality rather than quantity. These experiences that we talk about in our personal statement are used to give admissions tutors a real insight into you as a as a person, and the skills that you already have that will help you then with your degree study. Try to avoid giving a list of things that you've done or qualities that you think you have. These can often seem meaningless without examples and explanations. Giving real life, in-depth examples can demonstrate to an admissions tutor that you understand the requirement of the course and you have thought about the experiences that would be relevant to studying on that course. So giving just a couple of examples of transferable skills in greater depth is more meaningful than listing a whole heap of skills without any explanation to them. Then go one step further and link those skills into the degree or the career that your degree is aligning to. So, for example, if you were thinking of applying for a nursing degree, demonstrating that you have fantastic communication skills, which you have gained from a part-time job in your local charity shop, would align with being able to communicate well with patients and their families. Sticking to just a couple of really great experiences will also help you remain within that character limit. So remember that we do have a character limit on the personal statement, and your experiences should be clear and concise, but also meaningful. And again, referencing that Peel method of the point with evidence and explanation links back then to the course that you're applying to. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tracy. And that actually comes to an end of our webinar session on personal statements and the application process. I want to say a massive thank you to our 4 universities and 5 panelists that were helping us today. So a massive thank you to Ross at City St. George's, Amy at the University of Essex, Lee and Serge at the University of Wolverhampton, and Tracy at the University of Hull. It's been a massive pleasure for myself here at UK University Search. Like I said, this session has been recorded and it will be available to you all either later this week or early next week, and you'll be able to find that on studentstream.co.uk. I think we've been given loads of amazing advice, and my main bit of advice for all of you is please don't stress. Everybody is here to help and everybody is going through the same process. We've all done it before. Even though it does seem daunting, don't worry, it will be over soon, I do promise. If you do have any further questions after this session, please do get in contact with either ourselves or anybody at the university that you may be interested in. If you go through the student recruitment team or the student admissions team, everybody has all the knowledge you need and are all here to help you. That's enough from me. I'm going to stop the recording, but we are going to leave this Q&A session open just for a few more minutes. I can see there are a few questions in there, so we'll do our best to answer them all. And if we don't, like I said, please do get in contact and we can do everything we can to help. So that's a massive thank you from me, guys, and have a lovely evening. Cheers.